Hi guys, we're going to finish up chapter 10 tonight. Look here. Orange cat. Sorry. For agriculture. So last time we left off with why do farmers face economic difficulties, and we were looking at strategies to increase the world's food supply. So increasing exports from countries with surpluses. On a global scale, agricultural products are moving primarily from the Western Hemisphere to the Eastern Hemisphere. And the U.S. remains the world's leading exporter of grain. 1/2 of the world's maize or corn. The U.S. has 1/2 of the world's maize or corn exports, and the global share has decreased from 18 to 19% in the 1970s to 10 to 11% in the 21st century because of more rapid increase in agricultural exports from Latin America and Southeast Asia. Okay, so if we look at the map, we can see that the countries with the dark blue are net exporters of $10 billion and above. The countries that are a lighter blue have less than $10 billion. And then the countries in the yellows are net importers. The least, I guess the least bright yellow is less than $1 billion. The middle kind of color is $1 to $9 billion, and the darkest orangish color is $10 billion and above. So strategies to increase the world. Sorry, I don't have my camera set up, so it's kind of bumpily. Strategies to increase the world's food supply. So first of all, they can expand agricultural land. So today, few scientists believe that further expansion of agricultural land can feed the growing world population. Farmland in some regions is being abandoned for lack of water. So there's not enough water to irrigate and to provide water for more land for farming. And other land degradation that makes land resemble a desert-like state caused by humans. This is known as desertification. So when land erodes or loses loses trees, so when land goes back to a desert-like state, that's called desertification. Okay, so we have agricultural land and the population rising. So we see from 1960 to 2010 how the population has risen, and the amount of agricultural land has essentially stayed the same during that amount of time. And strategies to include the world's food supply. The next one is expanding fishing. Aquaculture or aqua farming is the cultivation of seafood under controlled conditions, whereas fishing is the capture of wild fish and other seafood. Human consumption of fish and seas has increased from 27 million metric tons in 1960 to 110 million metric tons in 2010. And global fish production has increased from approximately 36 to 145 million metric tons. Only 2/3 of the fish caught from the ocean are consumed directly by humans. But one has to wonder, I mean, this is just me talking, what that is doing to the population of fish in the ocean. And additionally, what we're eating, what is in the ocean and what is in other bodies of water that we're eating in these fish. It's a really interesting TED Talk about fish that are farmed and what goes on ecologically. I'll have to find it. I know I have it. It was on Brain Games, I think. Okay, so I'll find it and I'll tell you guys the name of it. It was a good one. Okay, so fish and seafood consumption, you can see how it's gone way up from 1960 to 2000 in the world, definitely. So you can see the world line is, from like say 27-ish up to maybe 110. And then in developing countries, it's gone from about 17 to 83. Whereas in developed countries, it's still rather low. So developed countries are not consuming fish and seafood at the same rates that the world and developing countries are. Something to think about why that is happening. So if we look at millions of metric tons of the fish that are captured, fish that are grown through aquaculture, and then the total of fish. This is the number of fish that are consumed. So we see definitely that the amount of aquaculture has gone way up since the 1990s. And then because of that, the amount of capture has been able to kind of even off. Sorry, I hope I'm not making you too dizzy. So the next thing that we can do to increase the world's food supply is to increase productivity. So there's been invention and rapid diffusion of more productive agricultural techniques during the 1970s and 80s, called the Green Revolution. This is what we started talking about on Friday, and we're going to finish our game tomorrow. So this has introduced new higher yield seeds and the expanded use of fertilizers. So these seeds create plants that grow more, and then, so what it says here, they allow for agriculture productivity to outpace population growth. So we have miracle wheat, rice, and corn. So the plants are actually growing more grains or corn kernel, or corn, ears of corn, or things like that. Additionally, now they have created ones that make it so that they have kind of like fertilizers and pesticides in them, so that farmers don't have to spray Farmers don't have to spray pesticides, but they are already pest resistant. I'm trying to think what else they have done now. Think about it. You guys can help me remember too. Okay, so this shows the food production and how it has risen in the 1960s. And remember, it's since the 1980s and 90s. Let's check that. 70s and 80s, since the Green Revolution. So, since the Green Revolution, that those miracle grains have been introduced. So then we have sustainable agriculture. And sustainable agriculture, these are agricultural practices that preserve and enhance environmental quality. So some practices that distinguishes sustainable agriculture, and the best form is considered organic farming. So these are sensitive land management, a limited use of chemicals, and better integration of crops and livestock. So this graph shows us the yellow countries are the more developed countries, the green countries are the less developed countries. I'm guessing this graph doesn't have a title, which is not good, but I'm guessing, I don't have my book with me tonight, I'm sorry guys. I'm guessing this is the amount of sustainable agriculture used in each country. So, prior to the development of agriculture, people survived by hunting animals, gathering wild vegetation, and fishing. Current agricultural practices vary between developed and developing countries. Everyone needs food to survive. Obviously, the amount of food and dietary composition of the food vary between developed and developing countries. Most people in developing countries are subsistence farmers, which means they grow crops primarily to feed themselves. Commercial farming is primarily practiced in developing countries. Farmers face many challenges to meet the dietary needs of a rapidly growing population when they're forced to rely on poorer quality land to farm, and as a result of land degradation processes and suburban sprawl taking away prime farmland. The end. Ooh, my screen's dirty. Okay, see you guys tomorrow.